trying to get in. Okay. All right. What in the hell? Oh, so we're not in? I don't know what the fuck's going on. So, kind of what I was wanting from the game is happening like kind of like the last day of the game. I think they should have kind of bumped up some of the things, like that boss requires multiple morphs in order to fight him effectively. Even though I did the this to kind of get away from certain attacks, if I would have done that, I could have dodged through some of them. You know, a little more practice, I could get it. But I think that was like 2 attempts. But I wish they would have kind of moved up some of these mechanics earlier into the game, because like I do think we're kind of at the end of the game. We're on day 4 and it's a little late. I guess in short, the pacing is a little off. Okay, so we need to go over here. I mean, it could be the way I'm playing the route, you know. It is a Metroidvania. Unfortunately, not many people have played this game, so it's hard to kind of gauge, because sometimes I'll go and look at other players' playthroughs after I've or as I'm playing to see like, okay, am I doing this right or am I doing it wrong? But unfortunately with this game, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but there's just not that many playthroughs that I can reference to see like, how other people are playing. I did find a couple, but the ones that I did find were not particularly very good, because they were kind of cheating. Fuck, we forgot to change our shit. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, we're okay. We forgot to change to our beetle. Although we need to still get through this. Cool. Turn in this quest. Oh, so it's like a tram, like in Hollow Knight. So this is like the second or third one that they've got. Sure, why not? Oh, okay. Okay, so that clears that too. Okay, cool. Hmm. Okay. So I believe we're ready to go fight the final boss. Hold on. I want to go check to see if we can get into this room over here now. This. We still don't have the ability to get through those purple barriers. Oh yeah, we need to change our... Ah. Actually, I think I went the wrong way. Is it going to open this time? Still not opening. So these purple barriers, we still haven't gotten the ability to open that. And I think we're going to be doing the final boss now. So we need to take this tram. It's over here. I think this takes us over there. Yeah. It's kind of weird. There's no enemies at all. Oh. Okay. Let's put on the music. Whoa. Whoa. Can you not just like... Shit. I don't think you can get iframes to go through those aerial attacks. The ones that go from left to right. Wait, don't kill me. So what are we doing? Fuck it, we'll kill him. Okay, so we completed the game, at least one ending. I don't understand why we didn't get the ability to unlock those other barriers unless you get it from killing the final boss and it's something for like a second playthrough or something. So, my opinion of this game, I don't think it's... So, Steam has, the way they frame it is recommended or not recommended. It's not positive or negative, although you could kind of frame it that way. I think I could recommend this game. It's not a bad game. It does have a couple of issues. Performance-wise, it's good. Bug-wise, I don't really feel like there was any like serious bugs that I noticed, but there were some design flaws in regards to getting your character stuck in places because the developers overlooked the possibility of like, oh, like, you know, for example, I got into an area where I needed to use that little flying drone, and because I didn't have it equipped and I didn't actually have it, I was stuck there. And then there was another spot in the game where I was trying to get down, but because of the morph that I was using, I was stuck. I couldn't progress. So I had to warp out. So just, you know, things like that. I wouldn't say like they're major, like anything like, oh yeah, you know, can't play the game. Just, it's pretty small, but just something to mention. The pacing, I do think the pacing of the game is got problems, in my opinion. Like, in my opinion, and I've played over the last couple of months, I played Hollow Knight, Ender Lilies, Ender Magnolia, and Biomorph. I don't think I played anything else. And what I noticed out of all the games is Ender Lilies, and it could just be the way I played it, had the best pacing. And in my opinion, the best progression. You never felt underpowered, but you never felt overpowered. it was challenging, but it wasn't like unfair, and it wasn't stupid easy either. Well, there was a couple of places in the game where like there's like a couple bosses. I need to look those up after I played it, but for the most part, it was really good. The only real complaint that I had about Ender Lilies is the congested animations when fighting bosses, because there's so many that are overlaying one another that you can't even see what the boss is doing as far as like tells. Kind of reminded me of Radon for the DLC before they nerfed him. Anybody that played Elden Ring DLC with Radon, getting that second phase, you couldn't even see what was going on because of all the animations. That was kind of how bad it was. I could definitely recommend it. I probably would wait for maybe a sale. I don't recall how much the game is. Let's see if it puts us... All right, let's go into the game. I'm wondering what it does. Does it put us in the New Game Plus? Okay, it looks like it... Okay, so you could, I guess you can do, you can get the other endings or whatever. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm trying to think on a, on a 1 out of 10 scale, where would I put it? Well, because I do recommend it, it's definitely no lower than a 7. Anything below a 7 for me is not recommended. I did bump Ender Magnolia up to a 7.5. I do think Ender Magnolia, even though it's got some pretty serious balance issues, I do think the gameplay is, for me, more enjoyable. This game could have been, but the pacing is off, and I don't think the morphs really come into good synergy until, I would say, the last third of the game. Before that, most of the bosses, you don't really need to use morphs. You could just play with your normal form, and you know, it's not a big deal. And this is what I was saying earlier, kind of like Mega Man 2 and Mega Man, as you're progressing through and killing the bosses, you actually have to use the abilities from the previous bosses to kill the bosses. And I think that we kind of started to see that in this game, but it doesn't happen until way later. And I think that was a missed opportunity, considering they had this great idea of having, you know, multiple, having multiple biomorphs. So it's at least a 7. I feel like if I gave it a 7.5, I'd have to up my rating for both Ender Magnolia and Ender Lilies. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people would be pissed. I did give, I think Hollow Knight, I think I gave it a 6 or a 6.5. There are things I loved about Hollow Knight, but just not enough. The main things I loved about Hollow Knight were the enemy AI is arguably the best I've ever experienced in any of these Metroidvanias. It's so good. I mean, I don't know what they did to program their enemy AI, but if we could get more of that in some of these Metroidvanias, like, it's really, really good. It's aggressive. It doesn't feel unfair, and you really have to, like, you know, it's challenging. And the enemies, and we're talking about just trash mobs, you know, not just like the bosses or whatever. So that's like the number one thing I loved about Hollow Knight. And then I really liked the hit system, as far as I guess the masks, and then the soul well, and then being able to heal, and being able to use spells and all that. That system is pretty awesome. The other mechanics, like the charms, they're okay. It's not like revolutionary or anything, but I would say those are the two main things about Hollow Knight that I absolutely loved. But what really killed it for me was not necessarily having to do the backtracking, but there's this long, you know, distance between running from one checkpoint to another. And as you're exploring, you know, if you're not near a checkpoint, although you can exit out and it'll warp you back, but if you end up warping into or saving into a place that you are trying to get out of, like I got stuck in the dust nest or whatever, and I couldn't get out because I was saved down there, and that was just a real pain in the ass and not a lot of fun. And the platforming wasn't really my flavor, it just wasn't really for me. I actually thought the platforming in this game started to get really good towards the end. I think they should have made it more like, it's almost like the ending of the game was the best part, like the last third of the game. I guess you could almost argue quarter because I'm on my 4th day, but I think, I would say the third, because even halfway through my 3rd day, like I was really starting to like feel a lot better about, what the abilities and things and everything coming together. And it's not about being overpowered, but just the flow of the game just seemed to pick up better. And I think that should have been bumped up to where, like, it should have felt like that at the 50% mark of the game, and at the latest, and no earlier at like the 40%. I'm not saying you should get the abilities that early, because if you get all the abilities, way early, that kind of defeats the purpose of playing the game. But I think I'd give it a 7, because if I were to give it a 7.5, then I have to bump Ender Magnolia to an 8, and that means I got to bump Ender Lilies to a 9. And Ender Lilies is close to being a masterpiece for what it is. But there are some, issues with the game that do knock it down just below being a masterpiece, but it's pretty damn close. So for me, a masterpiece would be like a 9 to a 9.5. There are no 10s in my book. That would imply the game is perfection. Everything is perfect. I have yet to play a game like that. The closest I've come is God of War 2018, and that's a 9.5. I can't give it a 10. But I could recommend it. It was enjoyable. It's not particularly like super difficult. Another thing that I kind of felt was a bit of a detraction from the game, but this is more personal preference. Not everybody's gonna feel this way. I think there's way too much dialogue and story crammed into the game, where you're just reading a lot, and there's all these quests, and I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but it's a little too much. It's almost like they tried to take a normal like action RPG and then mesh that with a Metroidvania. And I wouldn't say it's a failure, but I do think it's a little too much. I would probably tone it down. So where it is right now, I would probably cut it by 50%. Like you could still have quests, but maybe cut out about 50% of them, which would cut down a lot on the dialogue. I'd say 50% at the most, and you could maybe do like 60%, but it was just a bit too much, because when you're playing a Metroidvania, it does disrupt the flow of the gameplay when you're sitting there dealing with these quests, and then the quest system wasn't really, explained very well. In fact, I'm going back into the game because I do want to show something that I didn't understand until tonight, to be honest. So if I pull up, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to show this. So you get these quest markers, but these quest markers, like if I hover over it, you notice it has the white ring. Okay. But if I don't, then there's nothing. If the quest is complete or ready to be checked in, they'll be highlighted with a white ring. And some people may be like, oh, you're an idiot for not seeing that or whatever. Maybe so. I wouldn't say you're wrong if that's your perspective, but I don't think that was like, it was easy to overlook. Maybe change it to where, it has like a glow to it that pulses, and then maybe have, for example, these, the quests over here, if it's ready to be turned in, maybe highlight it yellow. So we know, oh, okay, we need to go wherever that is, because once we select it, it puts you where you need to go. And you like this one, for example. Yeah, like that one's ready to be turned in. No, it's not. It's because I was over it. But yeah, just little things like that. I still don't know what these barriers are that we weren't able to get the ability for, but I did enjoy the game, but I didn't enjoy it enough to where I'm probably going to go back and replay it. I said that about Ender Magnolia, and the funny thing is with Ender Magnolia, I had a lot more fun the second time around, but only because I knew for the most part about the balance issues, and I knew how to, let's just say, balance the game in a way that, you know, for the way I was going to play to where it was, you know, enjoyable. But if you're playing blind and you're going into that game, you're going to, and it's not just my opinion, if you go and read the reviews, that's the number one problem that most people have, is just the balancing of the game. This game, I didn't really notice too much on balancing. I think it was fine. I don't think there was any issues there. I think the mapping system was pretty good. Not amazing or anything. Oh, one major problem. Let me pull up. Yeah, this is a serious problem with this game. So in the game, as you're progressing, you're going to get certain biomorphs, and some of them, for example, this one is arguably what I would call the first key biomorph. And what I mean by key is you need to use it in order to progress further into the game. And if you position in a specific way, it's not going to work, and you're not going to know how or where to use it. That's what happened to me, and I end up wasting probably a good hour, maybe more, running around like an asshole in the game, not knowing where to go, because the game didn't highlight the ability in order for me to activate it to progress. And that wasn't the first time. It happened again with this ability, and also this ability. So I understand, because the developers also want players to figure it out, and players like myself, we want to figure things out, but this wasn't done very well. I think what they should have done is given us video clips, like a lot of other games, demonstrating what the abilities do, but don't show us, like, for example, when we get this one, don't show us, you know, where to use it, but just show us what the abilities do and, you know, how to use them. And also, this ability is not consistent, because there are other places in the game, many, that you're on a screen and you can see an opening to where you could port or teleport, and it doesn't work. So it's the developers only allow you to use this ability at very specific points in the game. And because there are similar points in the game where you should be able to use it and you can't, it's kind of like, it's kind of bad design. So to fix that, give us a video clip showing the ability and how it works. And then also, I would maybe give some sort of, not yellow paint, you know, I don't think you need to go that far, because we all know we hate the yellow paint, you know, of hand holding, but come up with a way where, and this is what another point about Team Cherry with Hollow Knight, is there were certain places in the game where you couldn't wall climb. So they would use a different visual for the wall. And if you tried to wall climb it, it was consistent. So you knew for the most part you weren't going to be able to wall climb. And I tested it because I spent a lot of time just trying to break the game, because that's what you do when you're playing a Metroidvania. And they were very good about being consistent with that. And that's what failed with this particular ability, because there's nothing really telling you that, okay, you'll be able to use this ability here because the walls have this texture. Again, you don't need yellow paint, but you could do something to kind of reinforce, like, okay, you can actually use it here or something like that. The only way to know is oh, wow, it's not letting me. What is this? Okay, I don't know what that is. Let me go, let me get out of here. I want to, so I think the first time we use that ability is over here. So let's go over here. Because I was kind of pissed off about this. You know, I get really frustrated with shit like this because I wasted like over an hour running around trying to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to do, and all because the developers didn't oh, Jesus. I don't think it's this one. Is it down here? Yeah, maybe this is it. No. Oh, it's over here. Okay, let's do this. I was ahead of myself. I've noticed developers will go and watch playthroughs of other people, so that's what I'm talking about. So if they do decide to watch like my last playthrough, maybe the feedback they'll hear, because I think it's better to hear the feedback verbally rather than typing it out on a review like on Steam or whatever. So if I can show what I mean, then they can kind of get an idea, because I do think that if they make another game, maybe a sequel, like I think they could make something really, like I think they could push to the 8.5 with updates and changes to the game, but still maintain their artistic vision. Okay, so right now I can't warp over to that other room. If I press Y, I can't do it. Let me see if I can okay, so here I can do it. So now it's opening up. Oh, that's interesting. So when I first came over here, I wasn't able to warp. And I also didn't even know about it. Like, I didn't know, like, you know. So it let me do it now, but I remember the first time coming over here, it was grayed out, so I couldn't do it. But that kept me from progressing. So I ended up, you know, obviously the map is unlocked now, but I kept running around over here. I don't remember if I had already accessed the green area or not. I don't think so. I can't remember. But that was, you know, a bit of a problem. And same thing, like I said, with this other morph, this one. And it's not the morphs work for the most part. It's just the way they interact with the environment. It's not buggy. It's just, it's kind of broken. It wasn't polished properly. And other people that may go to play the game who are retarded like me are going to get stuck. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. Let's see if we can get out of here. So I think I'd give this game a 7. I think if there were a few minor changes made to it, I think this could be an 8. You know, obviously the biomorphs being cleaned up a bit to where they work, having it to where you're using them more effectively required for bosses much earlier, because like I said, like a lot of the bosses that I didn't really have to start using a lot of different morphs until much later. To be fair though, this boss over here, I I went full retard on this boss, but I did have fun with it. It was one of the most fun bosses in the game because I really wasn't using morphs too much in that fight. It was really hard because of the way the homing missiles worked. I actually watched somebody do it, and when I watched it, I just double facepalm because like they made it like I was doing it completely wrong. So it's like I said, I went full retard on it, but it did make it more like, even though I was trying to use the morphs, the timing of being able to switch between them and be able to use them because of the speed of the boss didn't really work too well. Even though I went full retard, even if I didn't, it was still going to be a problem to be able to do that. But anyways, yeah, I think I'll put it at a 7. I don't think it deserves a negative review. I do think it's worth picking up. Maybe pick it up on sale if it's like on sale for like $15 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if it's a $20 game or a $25 game or whatever. The art is good. I did enjoy the music, but I usually turn off game music after a while because most of the game soundtracks, most games will have anywhere from 10 to 15 tracks. And when you're playing a game, at least for me, for several hours, that same soundtrack is played over and over and over again. And it's cool for the first couple of days. But then it starts to get to a point where it's like, okay, I've had enough of this. I need to listen to something else. So I do that pretty much with every game. It's, but the soundtrack is good. The artwork is good. Another thing, and I really don't like this about the game. Obviously I adapted to it, but I don't like it. So in order to hold jump, most games, if you tap, you get like a small jump. And if you hold, you get a much larger jump. Every game that I've played, except for this one, the timing as far as how long you need to hold is the same. This game requires you to hold it almost twice as long in order to get that longer jump. So now that I've completed the game, that in my opinion was not necessary. So I would have cut that back because it's really annoying having to hold the jump button way longer than you need to in order to actually use it. So I'm not really sure why they did that. I have all the morphs. I've played with them all. I don't see why you would need to do that, but whatever. Anyways, I mean, I think I've pretty much given my 2 cents of the game. Not a bad game, and I would like to see them make a sequel and take it further. I think the bosses could use a bit more. I do think bosses should have a second phase, and I do think they should start incorporating the biomorphs much earlier in the game as a requirement, and make it more difficult. Even though I did tone down to attack bonus and defense, even if I'd have put that on 0, that's not really going to change the mechanic difficulty. That just changes how much damage or attack that I'm going to do. And this honestly doesn't give very much after testing. But focus on the mechanics, because one of the things I loved about Blasphemous and even some of the bosses in Hollow Knight is the mechanics are so good. Like Hollow Knight does have some really good bosses. They're only a handful, but the ones that are absolutely fantastic. So spend time, on those bosses and, make them, memorable and difficult to where, you are going to need to spend quite a bit of time on them. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. I'm going to wrap this up. I will get this last day uploaded to my YouTube channel. And the next game we're going to kick off is Sekiro, my second playthrough. I don't know when I'll start that because I'm going to should be rebuilding my game rig starting tomorrow. So whenever I have time. So for anybody watching, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on my next stream.